How do you come back from dumping your husband for your ex, only to end up pregnant and alone? What do you do when you crawl back home and find your own sister standing where you used to stand, and your husband answers you with papers instead of words? Can a woman who swears she just followed her heart still pretend she's the victim when the law finally speaks? My name is Ira Valden, and people act like my life is some clear picture, but they only see the ending. They do not see the slow part, the quiet years that felt like heavy air. On paper, I had everything. A decent husband, a bright little boy, a safe apartment. In my head, it all felt flat, like someone had turned the sound down on my life. Noah was already in the kitchen when I came out that morning. He moved around the stove in that careful way he had, like every egg needed a plan. Leo sat in his booster seat banging a spoon, and I scrolled my phone at the table. A new photo of my ex, Jace, flashed on the screen. He stood behind a bar with soft lights and people laughing around him. I thought the picture looked like a movement. I thought my own life looked like the pan Noah was using. Scrubbed, safe, dull. Noah asked why I was up so late the night before. I said I was finishing a campaign for work. He asked if I slept at all. I said I was used to being productive. He told me I should rest more. I told him he should try wanting more. It sounded harsh in my ears, but I told myself it was honesty, not cruelty. I liked that word, honesty. It let me say almost anything. After breakfast, he wiped Leo's face with a warm cloth and carried him off to find socks. I stayed at the table, thumb drifting back to Jace's page. There was a clip of him laughing with some girl at the bar. I told myself it did not bother me. I told myself I was just curious. I thought about how Jace used to tell me I lit up every room, and how Noah now barely looked at me when he walked past. When Noah came back, he had his work phone in his hand. He checked his calendar and frowned a little. I saw a new reminder at the top. It said downtown office 10:40 a.m. in neat letters. I asked if he had a big meeting. He said it was personal. I laughed and asked if he had a secret hobby now. He said some things were just for him. For a second, I felt annoyed that he had something that was just for him. I told myself it was strange and a bit selfish, even though I was the one hugging my phone. I left for the office late on purpose. I wanted Noah to see me pulling on my jacket with that busy, important look. At the door, he asked if we could talk tonight. I said I was tired of talking and that nothing changed when we talked. He looked like he wanted to say more. Instead, he just nodded and stepped aside. I told myself he did not fight because he did not care enough. The office felt like light after the heavy air of the apartment. People laughed, music played softly from a speaker, and screens showed bright designs. Jace did not work there anymore, but sometimes he stopped by to help with video shoots. I checked my messages and saw his name, a short line asking how my boring domestic life was going. I smiled at my screen longer than I should have. I replied that I was dying of routine. He replied that some people were not built for cages. During lunch, my co-workers talked about weekend plans. Kayla asked if Noah could watch Leo so I could come out with them. I said Noah never minded staying in because he did not like fun. They laughed, and I let them. I painted him as a quiet, stiff man who did not understand my job or my friends. I knew that was not really fair, but it was easier than saying I was simply bored, or that I craved the old rush Jace used to give me. That evening, when I got back to my parents' house for a short visit, my mother watched me with sharp eyes. She asked if things were still comfortable with Noah. I said they were too comfortable, like a padded room. She asked if I had ever wondered if I married too young. I said of course I had. She smiled that dreamy smile she has and said feelings were important. I heard what I wanted in her words. I heard her telling me I deserved more. My sister Mila sat on the other side of the living room, folding a small stack of Leo's shirts. She asked how Noah was really doing. I said he was fine, and that he did not even notice when I came home late. She said that did not sound like him. I said she always took his side. She went quiet, and I felt like I had won something, even though I could not say what. Later that night, back at the apartment, Noah put Leo to bed and then disappeared into the small guest room we almost never used. I walked down the hallway and saw the light under the door. When I pushed it open a little, I saw his laptop on the desk. A simple folder on the screen was called Household, and a spreadsheet with dates and short notes filled the page. Before I could read more, he tapped a key and the window vanished. He said he was just trying to get organized. I said he was turning into my father. He smiled in that tight way that meant he was done trying. I left the room and drifted back to the couch with my phone. Jace's stories were still playing, bright and loud and full of people who looked like they were speeding through life. Our apartment felt slow. Noah's lists, Noah's quiet questions, Noah's careful hands on our son's shoulders. All of it felt small next to the rush in my chest when Jace's name blinked on my screen. I told myself I was not doing anything wrong. I told myself I was only imagining other options. When I finally got up to go to bed, I passed the guest room again. The door was almost closed now. Through the gap, I saw Noah's face lit by the screen and a small pop-up in the corner that I could not read. Something whirred softly. Then the printer in the corner spat out a single blank page before going silent again. Noah took his phone from the desk, glanced at the screen, and slipped away toward the guest bed instead of ours. A muted phone alert labeled Downtown Office 10:40 a.m. glowed on Noah's screen as he quietly shut the guest room door. I told myself the next day would just be normal work, nothing dramatic, just emails and meetings and lunch at my desk. On the train into the city, I kept scrolling through Jace's messages from months before, the old ones where he said I was electric and fearless. My reflection in the window looked tired and soft, so I tilted the phone to block my own face and looked only at his words. By the time I reached the office, I was already halfway in another world. Our agency sat on the 7th floor of a glass building, all open space and bright colours. As soon as I walked in, Kayla waved her coffee cup and told me there was a new client pitch. She asked if Noah had approved me staying late again. I laughed and said Noah did not approve or disapprove of anything. He just existed. People chuckled, and I let their laughter carry me. It felt good when they saw me as the fun one, and him as the flat one. I sat down at my desk and saw an email notification from Jace. He had replied to a message I sent the night before, one where I said I felt like I was living the same day over and over. He wrote that some people are meant for more than quiet kitchens and school runs. He asked when I was coming by the bar again. I felt heat in my chest and typed that I was busy with a new social campaign, but maybe he could swing by the office to help with some video ideas. I pretended it was work, but we both knew it was not just that. Around mid-morning, he actually appeared. He walked across the open-plan floor like he owned it, with that loose, careless walk people mistake for confidence. Ahmed called out that our star director was here, and Jace grinned and leaned on my desk. He asked how married life was treating me. I said I was drowning in routine. He said that sounded like a slow death. Kayla watched us with raised eyebrows, then looked away. I saw the judgment in her face and told myself she was just jealous. We spent the late morning in a small brainstorming circle, throwing ideas on a whiteboard. Jace kept steering things back to my concepts and saying I was the real creative mind. Every time he praised me, I felt my spine lengthen. When I suggested a new series showing night versus day lives, he said it came from my own story, the wild girl trapped in a careful marriage. He did not say Noah's name, but it hung between us. Someone from the team snapped a picture of us laughing together in front of the board, and I saw the flash out of the corner of my eye. I told myself it was just office content. At lunch, Jace messaged me to meet him at the coffee shop downstairs. I told myself there was nothing wrong with a quick break. I told someone on the team I was having a client catch-up and walked out with my laptop under my arm like a shield. At the coffee shop, Jace was already there in a corner booth. He waved me over and slid to my side instead of across from me. He asked if Noah knew how lucky he was. I said Noah had stopped paying attention a long time ago. Jace laughed and said men like that never wake up until it is too late. We sat close enough that our shoulders touched. When I leaned over to show him a mock-up on my screen, his hand brushed my knee and stayed there. It should have felt wrong. Instead, I felt seen. A co-worker walked in with a takeaway order, spotted us, and raised a hand in greeting. I smiled and waved back, acting like nothing was strange. After they left, Jace said rumors would start soon. I said people love to exaggerate. He said sometimes exaggeration was just the truth stretched until you finally looked at it. When I came back up to the office, Ahmed sent me a link to a photo on the team chat. It was the brainstorming picture from that morning, me and Jace side by side, laughing at something only we seemed to find funny. The caption joked about dynamic duos. Someone else added a comment with a flame emoji. I typed a laughing reply and pretended not to notice how close our faces were. I told myself it was harmless, that Noah would never see it. That evening, after Leo was in bed, I walked past Noah's little work corner again. His laptop was open, showing a spreadsheet filled with dates, times, and short notes. Before I could read more than a few lines, he clicked, and the window disappeared. I asked if he was still doing his boring budgets. He said he was just keeping track of things. I called him a human filing cabinet. He smiled without showing his teeth and said someone in this house had to organize reality. On his phone screen, I noticed a new repeating entry on his calendar. It said, "Meeting personal every Thursday afternoon." I asked if he had started therapy. He said not every meeting was about feelings. I said it was suspicious. He said it was private. For a moment, I felt a strange burn in my chest, like jealousy flipped inside out. I was allowed my secrets, I told myself, but seeing his made me feel out of control. Later that night, when I scrolled through social media on the couch, I saw that Kayla had posted the brainstorming photo on her story and tagged both me and Jace. She added a song about bad decisions as a joke. Jace replied with a smirking emoji. A mutual friend from college liked it and commented that I still had a thing for chaos. I told myself they did not know anything about my marriage, that they only saw a flat image. Still, my fingers shook a little when I thought about Noah stumbling on that post. He walked through the room on his way to the guest bed carrying his pillow. His phone lit up in his hand for a moment and a new calendar reminder slid across the top. I saw the words Maple Street 3:05 p.m. and another small note under it that I could not read. Before I could ask, he locked the screen and told me he had an early morning. I almost asked who he was meeting, but then I remembered I had just spent lunch pressed against my ex in a coffee shop. I told Noah the rooftop bar thing was just a team social, nothing serious, just drinks and networking and maybe some music. He asked if it was required. I said it was good for my career. He asked who would watch Leo if I stayed late. I said my mother could take him for one night and that he should be happy someone still found me interesting. He went quiet, and I told myself it was because he had no answer. At work that Friday, the whole office buzzed about the evening. People compared outfits, argued about ride shares, talked about shots and playlists. Jace messaged me that he would meet us there. He said he wanted to see me in my element. I read the line more than once. When Kayla asked if Noah was coming, I made a face and said he did not like crowds or fun. They laughed, and I pretended it didn't sting to say it out loud. Before we left the office, Jace walked over to my desk. He asked if I was ready to finally act like myself again. I said I was more than ready. He asked if Noah minded. I said Noah did not even ask for details anymore. Jace gave me this quick look that said he thought Noah was a fool. I liked that look more than I should have. The rooftop bar sat above a hotel, all fairy lights and loud bass. As we came out of the elevator, the air felt warmer and full of voices. People from the office spread out fast, some to the bar, some to the dance area. Jace found me near the railing and put a hand on my back. He asked if I wanted a drink. I said surprise me. It felt good to let someone else decide for once, even though I had just spent weeks saying I wanted control of my life. We stood in a loose circle with co-workers, drinks in hand. Ahmed told a story about a client meltdown, and everyone laughed. Jace took the chance to slide closer to me. A girl from another team lifted her phone and said she wanted a picture of the creative couple, meaning me and Jace, not me and my husband. I posed without thinking, Jace's arm around my waist. Someone joked that we looked like an ad for chaos and success. I should have pulled away, but I leaned in instead. As the night went on, the music got louder and the jokes got sharper. People had just enough alcohol to say the things they thought all along. Kayla said I seemed lighter when Jace was around. Ahmed said it was obvious who understood my vibe. Someone else asked if Noah knew how lucky he was to have competition. I laughed and said Noah did not believe he had competition. They screamed and cheered like it was a funny line, and I let them. At one point, a drinking game started near the center of the rooftop. People formed a loose ring and passed small glasses around. Someone shouted that Jace had to pick a partner, and several phones rose in the air, already recording. Jace turned to me and reached for my hand. He asked if I was going to leave him hanging again. I said maybe I was done being the responsible wife. The circle started another chant, and before I really thought it through, I moved into the center with him. In the middle of the crowd, with everyone's eyes on us, Jace leaned in. I could see the blue light of at least 3 phones pointed at our faces. He asked if I was sure. I said I deserved something real. Then we kissed, long enough for people to shout and clap. Someone yelled that Noah could never pull this off. I heard my name and his name in the same sentence, a joke I did not fully catch. I laughed anyway and threw my head back for the cameras. Later, when most people had drifted toward the bar, Jace and I slipped away from the main crowd. We walked down a block and ended up on the riverside promenade, the hotel lights glowing behind us. He asked what my plan was exactly. I said my plan was to stop living half a life. He asked if I would leave Noah. I said I already felt like I had. We walked side by side while the water moved dark and quiet next to us. I did not think about Leo, or the rent, or anything heavy. I thought about the video of the kiss and how it would look on someone's story. When I got home, the apartment felt extra small after the open sky of the rooftop. The hallway light was off, but there was a faint line of brightness under the guest room door. In the kitchen, only one mug sat by the sink, not the usual 2. I opened the fridge and saw a container of cut fruit labeled with Leo's name in neat handwriting. For some reason, that label bothered me more than it should have. I went to the guest room door and pushed it open without knocking. Noah sat at the little desk, a lamp beside him, his laptop open. On the screen, I saw a folder tree labeled Archive A and Archive B, both very clean and empty-looking. Next to the computer lay a single USB stick with that day's date written on a small white label. For a moment, we stared at each other. He reached forward and clicked something, and a small notification popped up saying, "File uploaded successfully." Then he closed the laptop slowly. I asked what he was doing. He said he was putting things in order. I asked if it was about work. He said it was about life. I made a joke about him turning into my father with his endless lists. He did not smile. Instead, something whirred in the corner, and the shredder beside the desk hummed to life, chewing through a small stack of old papers. The sound felt sharp in the quiet room. He stood up and picked up his pillow from the guest bed. He said he would sleep in here tonight so I could have space. I said he was being dramatic. He said he had seen enough and did not want to disturb me anymore. I felt a flash of anger that he did not shout or beg. I wanted a scene, something loud that proved he still cared. Instead, I got this cold, calm distance that made me feel almost invisible. A phone camera flashed again on my screen, replaying the rooftop kiss, just as Noah set a USB labeled with today's date beside a neat folder named Archive B and turned away. The family dinner was my idea, and I still think it was smart in a way. I wanted everyone in one place. I wanted the story told once in my voice so we would not have 100 side versions floating around. I told Noah it would be good for Leo to see everyone together. He asked if I was sure this was the right time. I said it was past time. He said nothing, just looked down at his phone, where I saw a small red circle around a date on the lock screen calendar before it went dark. The restaurant my mother chose had a long table in a side room, with low lights and framed photos of strangers on the walls. When we walked in, my parents were already there, sitting near the middle. My mother waved with too much energy. Mila sat beside her, with Leo climbing on her lap. On the far end, Noah's mother Ruth sat upright with her hands folded, and his father beside her. Noah stood next to me for a moment like we were still a team, then moved to a chair a little away, leaving a space between us that felt like a line. I waited until everyone had ordered before I spoke. I did not want interruptions. I tapped my glass with a fork and said I had something important to share. My mother looked thrilled, like she thought I was going to announce a promotion or a trip. Noah stared at the table. I said that things between me and Noah were not working, that I had been unhappy for a long time, and that we were separating. There was a little pause, a silence that felt full of forks and breathing. My mother put a hand over her mouth, then asked why I had not said sooner. I said I was tired of being ignored and controlled. I said Noah did not see me, did not support my career, and made me feel small all the time. It was not exactly true, but it sounded clean and simple. Lorna nodded and said some men just want a quiet little housewife, not a real woman. Ruth shifted in her seat and asked calmly if Noah wanted to say anything. He just said that we had both made choices and that his main concern now was Leo. I remember thinking that line was cold, almost rehearsed. Myla looked at me with her eyebrows tight. She asked how long things had been this bad. I said for years, even though things only really changed after Jace came back into my life. Someone at the far end asked if there was someone else. I laughed and said I just wanted to be free to be myself. My mother said that sounded brave. Ruth's mouth went thin, but she did not argue. I took their silence as proof that I had won the room. At one point, Leo tugged on my sleeve and asked if Daddy was in trouble. I told him grown-up things were happening and he did not need to worry. He said he wanted us all home together. It was a small voice, and for half a second it shook me, but I pushed it down. I told myself children are always confused at first. I told myself he would understand later when he saw me happy. Noah excused himself halfway through the meal. He said he needed to take a call. I watched him step into the small hallway near the bathrooms, phone to his ear, headphones on. He spoke in a low, steady voice, the same tone he used when reading bedtime stories. I could not hear the words, only phrases like stable for Leo and time frame. He held a thin clipboard against his side. I caught the word statement at the top of the first page before he turned away. My mother said he was being rude for walking out. I said he did not know how to handle real emotion. Back at my parents' house later that night, the mood was slower. The living room was full of half-empty glasses and the dim light of the TV. My mother sat on the couch with a tissue, acting like she was the one being left. She asked if I was sure about this path. I said I had to follow my heart. She said she understood, that she had been trapped once too. My father sat in his chair near the window, staring at the dark street. Finally, he said that Noah had been a good father, and that whatever happened, Leo needed stability. I snapped that I knew how to be a mother, that I was not running away. No one said anything after that. Myla stayed behind when our parents went to the kitchen. She picked up one of Leo's cars from the floor and rolled it between her fingers. She asked if there was anyone else involved. I said she sounded like a police officer. She said she just wanted the truth, for once. I told her there was someone who actually saw me, who wanted the same things I did, and that Noah had never understood my need for more. She asked carefully when this someone came back into my life. I felt the question pushing near Jace and the rooftop and the videos. I told her she was always quick to doubt me and quick to believe any man. Later, alone in my old bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone. I felt sick to my stomach and blamed the food. When I went to the bathroom, the sharp smell of cleaning spray made me gag. I looked at my face in the mirror, pale and drawn, and an idea rose in my mind slowly like a bubble. Back in the bedroom, I scrolled through my recent calls, saw Jace's name and hesitated. I told myself I would talk to him tomorrow. Tonight, I needed everyone on my side. When I finally went back to the apartment the next day to pick up some clothes, Noah was not there. On the wall calendar in the kitchen, I saw that same red-circled date again, no words beside it. In the small room he had turned into his office, the desk was clear except for a neat binder labelled utilities that was too thick for just bills. On the chair lay his headphones, and on his phone on the desk I saw a missed call marked private. I touched the screen, but it locked again before I could see more. Leo tugged my sleeve at the restaurant and asked who his real daddy was now, just as Noah's phone lit with a muted call from private, and he stepped into the hallway with his clipboard marked statement. Jace said he needed air when I told him about the test, and I still tried to tell myself it was normal. We were standing behind the bar near the service door, the afternoon light leaking in from the alley. I held the plastic stick in my pocket like it was proof of something holy. He asked if I was sure about the timing. I said I could count. He asked if I had told Noah. I said it was none of Noah's business if I was finally starting my real life. He did not look at me when he said this was a lot to take in. For a few days after, his messages got shorter. He answered my long texts with single words or emojis. When I called, it went to voicemail. I told myself he was scared, that men always freak out right before they step up. I talked out loud in my old bedroom at my parents' house about how he would come around. My mother listened and said, men sometimes needed time to accept big news. My father just said that bills and diapers did not care about feelings. One night I went to the bar to corner Jace. He was busy stacking glasses, eyes everywhere except on me. I pulled him aside near the back door and said we needed to talk. He said we were talking now. I told him I was pregnant and that I needed to know what part he wanted to play. He asked if I was sure it was his. I felt my face burn and said he knew exactly how long we had been together and how long I had been away from Noah. He stared at the wall and said he was not ready to be a father. I said I was not ready to be a single mother either, but here we were. He muttered that he needed space and walked back behind the bar. By the end of the week, he had blocked me on everything. I tried to shift the picture in my head fast. If Jace would not stand beside me, then Noah should. I told myself Noah had always wanted another child. I told myself we could fix this if I just sold it right. I called him from my parents' living room, where Leo's toys were scattered over the carpet. He answered on the second ring, voice calm. I said I had made a mistake and wanted to come home. He asked what kind of mistake. I said I had chased the wrong man and that I was pregnant and scared. There was a pause, a deep one. He asked quietly whose baby it was. I said it did not have to matter, that families were about love, not biology. He said it mattered for more than one reason. His voice stayed level, and that somehow hurt more than if he had yelled. A few days later, I took Leo to the park near the area where I knew Noah rented a small place. I told myself it was for Leo, that he deserved to see his father, but really I wanted to see the man I had treated like a backup plan. The playground was full of parents and strollers, the soft ground dotted with toys. I spotted Noah on a bench near the swings, watching Leo push a little car in the sand. For a second, I thought I had travelled back in time. Then I saw Mila standing next to the bench, holding a thermos and laughing at something Leo said. I felt my stomach twist in a different way. I walked over, calling Leo's name. He ran to me and hugged my legs, then looked between me and Mila like the air had split. Mila greeted me quietly, eyes careful. Noah stood up and asked Leo to go show Aunt Mila the slide again, giving us space. I said it was nice to see them all together. He said he had moved closer so he could keep Leo's routine simple. I said it looked like Mila had moved closer too. He said she was helping with school emails and appointments, nothing more. His tone was even, but I heard the wall in it. I told him I was serious about coming back. I said we could tell everyone we were working things out for Leo's sake. I said the baby could grow up in a real family instead of some broken half-life. He asked again, very calmly, if I was saying the baby was his. I hesitated and said we could present it that way, so people did not talk. His jaw tightened. He said he would not lie to his son. I said he was being cruel. He said he was done living in my stories. He looked at his phone then, almost like he needed to anchor himself. A small alarm flashed across the screen labelled Paper Drop 1:50 p.m. I snorted and asked if he was still making nerd notes about bills. He slipped the phone back in his pocket and said he was making sure things were handled properly, especially for Leo. I asked what that meant. He said that soon everything would be clear and that he had been keeping records for a reason. There was no threat in his voice, but suddenly I felt cold anyway. Later that afternoon, I went to Mila's townhouse without calling. She opened the door slowly like she expected a storm. Her place was small but warm, with kids' drawings on the fridge and a stack of folders on the table. She made tea and sat across from me in the kitchen. I said everyone had turned on me and taken Noah's side. She said people were tired, not turned. I said she had replaced me in my own family. She said she was just making sure Leo had stability while the adults figured themselves out. While she talked, I looked at the table. A thick folder labelled taxes lay half open, and when she reached to close it, I saw a small USB taped to the inside cover, dated in black pen. On her laptop screen, there were open tabs for storage options, delivery tracking, and notary near me. I asked if she was planning a secret wedding. She said not everything was about romance. She added that Noah was finally doing what he should have done a long time ago, taking things seriously on paper. The phrase stuck in my ears. I left her place and stopped by the supermarket to feel like a normal person again. In the checkout line, I heard two women behind me whispering. They were talking about a husband who got cheated on by his wife and her ex, and how the wife ended up pregnant and alone. One of them said she had seen the rooftop video, that it was messy. I knew they were talking about me before they said my name. I kept my back straight and pretended not to hear. A few lanes over, I saw Noah with a small basket, Leo at his side and Mila checking a list. They looked quiet and steady. He met my eyes for a second, nodded in a polite way, and turned back to the belt. As Noah told me at the park that he would handle everything properly, a new calendar ping for District Plaza 9:40 a.m. flashed on his lock screen before he slipped the phone away. I went to the plaza telling myself this was a meeting to talk about us and the baby, nothing more. The courthouse steps were grey and wide, and Noah waited by the bench in a clean shirt, with Mila and Leo a little way off. I walked up with my hand on my stomach and said we could still fix this, that the baby could have a full home if he just took me back. He listened without interrupting, then said calmly that this was not a reunion. This was clarity. A man with a folder approached, asked my name, and handed me a thick envelope in front of everyone. I opened it and saw the words petition for divorce, temporary custody orders, exclusive use of the apartment by him, financial terms, and a line that said the unborn child was not presumed to be his. My mother gasped. My father stayed very still, and Ruth put a hand on Leo's shoulder while Mila watched me with wet eyes and a set jaw. I asked Noah how he could do this to me. He said he was not doing anything to me. He was just finally handling things properly for himself and for his son. The envelope shook in my hands as the plaza clock chimed and Leo called out, asking Noah if they were going home now.